right, next you're going to take the liner piece, one of the sides of the liner piece. You have a 12-inch zipper. You're going to have the liner piece right side up and the zipper also right side up. So what you are doing is you are going to pin the wrong side of the zipper to the right side of one of the lining pieces. So I want to make sure that the head of my zipper is inside of the edge just a little bit, and that the top edges are lined up. So the top of my zipper is lined up with the top of the lining, and then I will just put some pins in to secure it, and then you will baste stitch the zipper in. Okay, so it's pinned on, and then you will baste that in place. For this step, I haven't even put on a zipper foot. I have increased my stitch length to a 5, and I just have a regular foot on. I have the needle in the far left position, which is stitch 1, but I'm going to just stitch down the length of the zipper. So now, this is just temporary. It's holding the zipper in place so that when I start putting the other parts and pieces together, the zipper won't shift. It won't move around. Okay, so that takes care of the baste stitch on the zipper. All right, now I've got the liner piece. The zipper is right side up, so the wrong side of the zipper is touching the right side of the liner. Now I've got one of my wristlet, the clutch pieces, and I'm going to lay it right sides together. So then I am going to pin it in place in just a few places. And then machine sew it. Now when this is machine sewn, it is not basted, so I'll need to increase the stitch or decrease the stitch length back to a 2.5, and we'll probably have to use a zipper foot. All right, I'm going to remove the regular foot, attach the zipper foot, and I think I'm going to attach this to the left. Okay, I'm going to go back to a regular 2.5 stitch length. Now I'm going to secure this permanently on the zipper. You just want to make sure you're catching the zipper. The camera. Here, I'll face. So my little helper wanted to come in and say hi. Where'd she go? There she is.
Hi.
What are you doing?
Playing with my baby Malin.
Playing with your... All right, so now that I've attached the zipper, we're gonna flip this over. You'll have the liner piece on the wrong side of the zipper, and then the outside pleated piece is on the right side of the zipper. I'm going to lay the next liner piece down, right side up, and then I'm going to lay the zipper down on top of it again, with the wrong side touching the right side of the zipper. Or, sorry, the wrong side of the zipper should be touching the right side of the liner. And we have to make sure they line up really straight and even with that other piece. So now, not only are we looking at does it match across the top, but we want these side pieces to line up also. Or at least be straight and even. Okay, so right about there. So again, I'm going to pin this in just a few places and then go over and machine baste it in place. All right, just what we had most recently done, we had this liner piece facing right side up, and then we laid the zipper down on top of it, and we stitched across the top. So that is that base stitch that is attaching the wrong side of the zipper to the right side of that other liner piece. So this part, just really check and make sure that what you are doing looks like this. You may want to pause the video and just double check. So what we have on the very bottom is a liner piece that is right side up, and then we have another liner piece facing that. Those are right sides together. Then we have the body of the wristlet, and it's right side up. And now I'm going to attach the other body, and it is going to be right side down, and it's going to line up across the top edge of the zipper. So now we will secure that using a zipper foot and a regular 2.5. Stitch the wristlet, the pleated piece in place. So for this part, the zipper pull end is closest to me. So I'm going to stitch along here. And then eventually, I will want to move the zipper out of my way. So I'm going to leave the presser foot down. I'm just going to kind of push the zipper back out of the way as far as I can get it. Okay, now I want to just make sure it's still all lined up really well here. Okay, so now what we've done, we've just secured that zipper in place. Now we can open it. So there's the liner, you got the zipper in the middle. And the reason the zipper's right there is I just moved it out of my way earlier when I was machine sewing. And look here, so exciting. Here is the clutch with the zipper on top and the liner inside. So now we just have to finish a couple final steps to secure it. All right, so for this step, I just folded it this way just to kind of look and make sure everything's looking okay. Also, it might not be a bad idea right now just to double check and make sure your zipper works okay. All right, mine works just fine. But when we are sewing it, we need it to all be right sides together. So my clutch pieces are going to lay right sides together. And then my liner pieces are going to lay right sides together. And we are going to pin all around. You have some notches on the side of the clutch that will match up. So you will match those notches right here. You're going to try to match your crease on the bottom of the band. I'd say that's probably one of the most important things, so that band matches up all the way around. It'll look best if that's really precise and lined up. But you're just going to pin all the way around. The opening where you're going to leave it to flip it inside out is going to be right down here. Before I do anything else, I want to double check again, and it's not, so I'm so glad I checked. You want to make sure that your zipper is open about halfway. All right, so I have put a ton of pins in here, and I would suggest you do the same. A couple of things to just note before you start sewing. One is to double check the lineup of your band, the fold of the band that's right here. It really does need to line up very evenly on both sides. You'll line up your notches. Okay, and then also I've pinned all the way around. Now for me, my clutch side has lined up really, really well. I did have a little bit of an issue on the lining side. And so basically what happened is when I pinned all of these pieces together and then sewed them together, my liner pieces were sewn about a 1/2 inch off. So they had like shifted over. One of them had shifted over about a 1/2 inch. So it just doesn't line up perfectly, but it's still okay. I just have to be aware of it when I'm sewing so that I catch this little area, and then there's another area on the other side. You want to also make sure that your zipper is laying down nicely and that you've marked your opening. So I've got 2 pins right here and here on the liner side, and then I'm going to leave that part open. That's also where I'm going to start sewing. So when I start, I'm going to start right here or right here. I'm going to back stitch, and I'm supposed to use a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, so I will stitch a 1/4 of an inch all the way around until I get back to this set of pins, and then I'll back stitch there also. After that, you just have to flip it inside out and do a couple of other things. All right, so I had just come from doing the zipper, so now I need to remove the zipper foot and replace it with the J foot, the original foot I normally use. Now I'm also going to turn my machine back to a 1 and do a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. For those of you who are using the baby lock, that is the little mark on the presser foot. That is just inside that little clear plastic edge. Okay, so I'm going to locate those double pins. That is where I'm going to start sewing. So the edge of my fabric's lined up with that little notch in the foot. Okay, and I do want to make sure that I do a really secure back stitch. So I'm actually going to stitch forward several stitches. Because this is the liner of the bag, it's going to be on the inside. You won't see it, but it does need to be pretty secure. Now take as much time as you need to go around these curves. The key thing to do is first to keep it curvy. So try not to have it pointed, but also just make sure you're picking up both the top and bottom pieces inside the seam. If you get too close to the edge, then you run the risk of not catching both edges, and then you'd end up with a hole in the liner. Now this particular pattern, instead of curving right there, it does actually pivot. So I'm going to lift my needle and just rotate a little bit. I'm getting ready for the part that I had messed up on, so there's a little overhang right there. I am just going to slightly shift it. Okay. And I'm just watching here. Now I'm getting ready to go over the zipper. You should be just fine. The only thing that it's possible that you might run into there's a little metal piece there. I've opened my zipper, so the zipper head should be in the middle. You shouldn't bump into that, but there are a couple other metal parts that you might be careful of. But now I'm ready to just sew straight. I'm going to try to line back up the edge of my fabric with the 1/4 of an inch. I left that pin in right there because I really want that band piece at the top to stay lined up. I didn't want it to shift at all. So it is okay to sew over pins when you have to. So going straight for a while, but we're ready to go back over a curve. So you'll just start curving with the fabric and just watching the edge of it, keeping it lined up with that groove in the foot. Okay, we're coming around another curve. Okay, once again, I'm gonna leave my pin in right here at the band so that I don't, uh-oh, my pin head got stuck. I did that on purpose, but it came back to get me. It did not break my needle though, so I can keep going. I'm gonna shift in just a little bit because what I did is I looked to see where my metal piece, and it was gonna be right there at that 1/4 inch. I'm gonna shift back over. So now I'm lined up with a 1/4 inch again. All right, it's all sewn. So the only spot that is not sewn is right here between those two. I had the double pins here and here, and I left the opening. All right, before we flip it inside out, you can trim off any extra bulk you have in the zipper. So if you had like a zipper that was a little longer, you'll just trim those pieces off. And make sure to not use our fabric scissors for that, for the fabric shears. Just use regular scissors for trimming that. And now we're going to turn it right side out through the opening that was left right here. All right, so I have flipped it inside out. Now I'm just going to smooth out the seams as much as I can with my hand. So you can see right here that band piece, it did line up pretty well. I'm going to smooth this out with my hand first, and then I'm going to press it. And I'm going to do that before I stuff the lining down in there. So I'm going to go just press this real quick. All right, so I've already used my hand on the inside here to just push the edges out as much as I could. Just trying to press the liner. It is looking pretty good so far. And then the last thing I need to do is what I was just mentioning, is fold this under 1/4 inch. You just don't want any raw edges showing. So turn it under 1/4 inch and then stitch that area closed, either by hand or by machine. So I'm just zooming in to show you this opening. I used a machine to just top stitch along there to close it. If you were doing this for to sell it, you would want to do some kind of an invisible stitch there, because this is just for fun for me. I just did the machine stitch and it is visible, so, but it's gonna be on the inside of the bag, so it won't bother me too much. All right, now we're all done. I'm going to take the liner, stuff it down inside of the clutch, and there you have it. It is all ready to go. Zip it closed and then carry it on your wrist.